Let's bring in California Congressman Kevin Kiley. He sits on the House Judiciary Committee. From that post on the Judiciary Committee, Congressman, you know something about the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Are you surprised that that very liberal court gave the president the go-ahead to continue to order in the National Guard?
You know, honestly, I'm not surprised, despite the Ninth Circuit's reputation, because this lawsuit by Gavin Newsom was so frivolous, and this is just a humiliating result for him, where even the Biden-appointed judge was part of this unanimous ruling against his position. And what the court basically said is that the statute in question here allows the president to send in the Guard if there's interference going on with his ability to execute the laws. And so the court cites things like Molotov cocktails being thrown at officers, officers being pinned down, bricks being thrown at them. The court cited an example of some of these rioters who wheeled a commercial dumpster and used it as a battering ram to try to break into the parking garage at a federal building. So the court said, yeah, this kind of looks like the ability of the president to execute his powers under federal law is being interfered with, and therefore he was perfectly within his powers as commander-in-chief to send the National Guard there to restore order.
Alex Padilla, who is the senator from your state, says that he doesn't see the anti-immigration situation in the same way the president does. Listen.
If this was only about cracking down on drug dealers, violent criminals, dangerous criminals, et cetera, there'd be no debate, there'd be no discussion. Everybody's on board with that. But what this administration is doing is far from that.
So he seems to be saying that, you know, it's okay to get rid of the drug dealers and the violent criminals, but you can't just get rid of people who sauntered across the U.S. southern border. What do you say to the senator?
Well, the irony is that Senator Padilla and Gavin Newsom and the supermajority legislature have supported the sanctuary policies that are preventing the administration from going after precisely those sort of hardened criminals in the safest and least disruptive setting, that is within jails, within a custodial environment. And it's precisely because of these awful sanctuary laws, sanctuary city for LA, sanctuary state for California, that ICE has no other choice but to conduct targeted operations wherever these folks can be found within the community. So if the senator was really serious about what he has to say, then I would welcome his support for legislation that I've introduced to get rid of these sanctuary policies, and there's similar legislation in the legislature right now. But instead, by the way, what we have, and let's just consider the absurdity of this with Gavin Newsom going to court, an action that I believe the senator supported, that they seem to think the clear and present danger is not the rioters, not the people throwing Molotov cocktails, lighting cars on fire. They seem to believe the clear and present danger is the presence of the National Guard itself. I think that's deeply offensive to our dedicated National Guardsmen, and they have managed to restore order when Gavin Newsom refused to do so.
The people who are trying to enforce our laws out there are taking heat from the rioters and others. Listen to what Tom Homan, the head of Homeland Security, has to say.
The agents who wear a mask protect themselves and their families. Not only are they being doxxed, their spouses are being doxxed. Their children are being doxxed. And you said it, assaults up over 400%. They're trying to protect themselves. The job's already dangerous, but it's much more dangerous now because of the rhetoric you're hearing from the Democrats.
He is the head of border enforcement, I should say. Your final thoughts, Congressman, on the situation in California.
Well, these are the very same people who insisted that 2-year-olds be required to wear masks during COVID, or who would arrest people for like paddleboarding by themselves in the ocean without a mask. And now suddenly they're outraged by ICE officers who are under constant threat, feeling they need to do this in order to protect themselves and their family. It's an absolute disgrace. And there's a bill even by a state senator who's now saying he wants to try to stop under state law federal officers from being able to wear masks, which is obviously not within the powers of the state. So the priorities are exactly backwards. And I think that the level of violence that you saw against our federal officers in Los Angeles is absolutely horrifying. It should be condemned in every way, shape, or form. But in too many ways, our elected officials in California have done just the opposite. They've egged on the violence. They've egged on the rioters while putting a target on the back of our federal officers.
Congressman Kevin Kiley, Republican of California. Congressman, thank you.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.